You can ask Richard. He's a very honest man. He hasn't lied to me, at least to my knowledge so far. I said I would scream in this podcast when I double-checked over this. I was mad when I saw. So when this happened, allegedly, and the thing is, I hate this like mindset. It's like this like two-way to think about it, where I give my opinion on something, and it's just my opinion, and I'm like, this is why. I'll explain my reasoning. Armchair GMs don't know what they're talking about. Yet whenever this happened, Philadelphia was going to take him. They had to move up to get Victor Soderstrom. All right, Victor Soderstrom, who's played 2 seasons, 17 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. He has not been the offensive player that they've needed him to be. He has not developed into what you need him to be yet. He's a very good two-way, primarily defensive defenseman. I think he's made some pretty good strides there. But you did not move up and waste the extra asset to go up. Well, I think they were at who did they trade with? They traded, I think they were at like 17 or 18 when they made that trade, were they? But they only went up like a few spots.
So I think the trade was that we traded with Philadelphia, and we moved up to take Soderstrom from Minnesota. I believe that's what it was.
All right. Well, everyone was telling me it was Philadelphia, which I was like,
I think
sure,
we made.
Whatever, but
I think we made the trade with Philadelphia. I want to say.
If we were 14 overall, because I remember being mad, we only moved up 2 or 3 spots, so that makes sense. But at the same time, Philadelphia saw it as we get an extra asset as well, because they traded a 2nd-round pick. I said it should have been a 3rd-round pick, because that 2nd-round pick either ended up becoming this nobody, Bobby Brink, or ended up getting traded off for another asset later. But anyway. So you wasted the 2nd-round pick to move up like 3 spots, and here's everyone that went in the next like 6 spots. So Matt Baldi,
oof.
Spencer Knight,
oof.
Cam York,
oof.
Cole effing Caulfield,
oof.
The guy we were trying to trade instead of Connor Timmins, the guy we were trying to acquire, Alex Newhook,
oof.
And Peyton Krebs.
Oof. I got you there. Got you back. Hype man here. Scream for it.
Okay.
Scream.
So.
Fetal position.
Okay. So, I made a video. It's my most viewed video, just shy of 6K views, about me being mad how the Coyotes could have had Cole Caulfield. Imagine for a second, Keller, Caulfield, or Caulfield on the left, you can have him on the right, doesn't matter, with Connor Garland, especially since Connor Garland wanted to be more of a playmaker. You could have put Schmaltzy with him. If they ended up reacquiring Galley, I don't remember which year they had Galley. It was 18-19, so it would have been a little like the year after I think they traded away Galley. But
yes.
You could have kept Galley and had Galley be the center. Could have had Dvorak be the center. Imagine the production. Oh, it could have taken an extra year, sure. But at the same time, if you would have had the right coach, I love Andre Tournier. I think Andre Tournier should have been the coach for the last couple of years. I don't care what anyone has to say. But you could have had that line. And again, looking at the rest of these players, they tried to trade for Newhook. Multiple reports, they tried to trade for Newhook. Peyton Krebs, a very solid forward. Very solid player. Cam York, right now, has more games, more experience, and more points than Soderstrom. See, he has 10 points. That's 8 more than Soderstrom right now. And he's also more so playing in the NHL than Victor is. Spencer Knight is part of the reason I would be okay with trading Chychrun, because the the reported deal would have been a first, Spencer Knight, and Anton Lundell. And if you're trading me that, all right, I'm not thinking twice. You can have whoever you want on this team that isn't named Clayton Keller. Sorry. Anyway, so Matt Baldi, another guy, Minnesota will never trade him unless like he demands something like he's not working out, he's whatever. The amount of raw talent that was just after Soderstrom. And I remember so many Coyotes fans just tearing into me when I was like, I don't get that pick. It's a reach. It was a waste of an asset. I hated throwing away a 2nd-round pick to move up 3 spots. Oh, did you think they were just going to move up for free? You add 2 thirds. Thirds are, well, you're going to have higher available talent at second. Why wouldn't you just package the 2 thirds if you really wanted to move up that bad? Stop wasting 2nd-round picks, and then you also get an asset that, while he is still a good defensive player and right-handed shot defenseman will always have more value than a left-handed shot defenseman. I don't fully know why, but I know it also comes with like pairing, being able to have that guy on the right side that has the proper hand to fish it around.
Yeah.
There's a couple of more technical reasons for it.
Supply and demand.
But it's exactly supply and demand. Great. I love that interjection. But they could have had an elite young player. And anyone that was paying attention even said Soderstrom's a reach. Like, everyone that knows hockey said it was a reach. I said it was stupid to waste the asset for the guy. Who cares if he wouldn't have been there? Let's say they still pick 14. Let's just say that Soderstrom still goes 11 and he goes to Philadelphia. All right, so Arizona missed out on Baldi and Knight, sure. You still could have had Newhook, Krebs, or Caulfield. That is one of the reasons why, this team will never win the cup with those certain regimes, those certain stupid mindsets. One of the reasons I don't like Marullo is because he idolized John Chaika. And Chaika made some very good trades. Most of those trades, though, looked better at the time than they did a year or so later, which is a huge problem. And he did make very good value, like 3rd, 4th round picks. I give him all the credit there. But we could have had an elite young player.
Yeah.
We could have had Gold Caulfield. I'm having an aneurysm, I feel like, right now. I take it away. I'm just going to keep screaming at this point.
All right. To go back to assets that were mismanaged, I want to take a look at the Taylor Hall deal, just real quick. Mm-hmm. Goodness gracious, I'm trying to find this quickly as possible. So, we traded away a few assets, right? And this is the one that hurts the most. Okay? I understand going for it. But this is, I just want to point something out. This is why you never hand away magic beans. This is why you don't hand away your picks. Because this one hurts. You ready for this?
All right, give it to me. I'm down to yell.
Okay. So we trade away for Taylor Hall, who honestly plagued the team. Ask any Coyotes fan. The Coyotes went from a hard-working team to, we don't need to score anymore. Taylor Hall will score for us. Seriously, that's what...
I disagree, but I'm also the minority. I am the only person that liked Taylor Hall.
I agree.
Anyone else that hated him.
Well, no. I agree. I liked Taylor Hall, but the problem was that the second we traded for him, the rest of the team stopped trying because they're like, we're fine. When you're doing homework, right, and like one quarter you got like an A because you did all your homework, and you're like, next quarter I'll do a little bit less homework because I'll skip a couple of days, and then you show up and you get a D and you're like, oh crap, that's what happened. The team went from a hardworking A to I'll skip a couple homework assignments because I'm at an A. I don't care. I'll be fine.
I think you have a good point there, except for one thing. I genuinely believe, and no one can convince me otherwise, he helped unlock Connor Garland's full potential as a 20-goal scorer. Because they paired those two, and Halsey has a very good pass, a very good setup mind, and I think him and Garland connected for more than enough goals that I think he elevated Garland. But I also am not going to try to argue against what you're saying for the rest of the team. But because Garland's a favorite player and unlocked his potential, I think it's probably one of the reasons why I'm biased and I liked Halsey's addition so much, was because I loved that pairing. I love that pairing more than a lot of other pairings we've had, because that was Connor Garland's breakout year, and they paired them together. I think throughout the majority of the time when Halsey was here.
Yeah. All right, so let me throw out some trades here, or throw out the trade here.
All right.
So it's Taylor Hall and Blake Spears for Nick Merkley, Nate Schnarr, Kevin Ball, and that 2020 first round pick by the little name of Dawson Mercer. Dawson Mercer would have been an Arizona Coyote. Just to give a little example here, a rookie who isn't talked about all that much in the in New Jersey. In 78 games played, he has 41 points, 16 of them goals, 25 assists as a rookie.
I would not care about what you just told me right now if they would have re-signed Hall and they would have kept Hall and Garland together and then still changed the coach because you know my feelings on Rick Tocchet.
Yep. You and I have similar feelings. I did not like Tocchet after season 2. I went, no.
Draft picks, I will agree, real quick, just to try to stay calm. They are anomalies. You know, you don't want to have your entire future be just first-round picks because you still have to hit on them, and even if you hit on them, you still have to develop them properly. Injuries, you know, Barrett Hayden, it has affected him, obviously. I still like the player, but you're not going to get that 5th overall pedigree because of, in part, that. I think also in part trying to rush him a bit, him not being right for Tocchet's system. We can go on and on, but it is a bit of an illusion with draft picks.
Yeah. Yep.
You still don't throw around first-round picks like they're candy.
Yep.
Because let's just say, for example, we kept the pick. It stays the exact same, right, whatever, and we don't pick up Mercer. You said it was a 2020 draft, right? I want to just take a real
2020
quick
draft. And remember, this is the year. This is the year when everything kind of fell apart. There was a shutdown, and then there was a bubble. The Coyotes had to play into the bubble. They were out of it because they choked that badly. Remember, at the time, this pick wasn't terrible. They were first in the Pacific Division. They were first. And it wasn't just we squeaked up to the first, let's get something to stay there. They were in first for like 3 weeks, okay? So this team wasn't bad. It was playing all right. They were playing all right. And this was the, all right, let's commit and go for it trade. The problem is you can trade all the assets that you've looked at you want. I don't disagree with moving assets that you've already drafted. This is why you don't trade away assets that have not been drafted yet.
All right, so here, and I'm also going to be considering trading down to get more assets, right? So we could have had Dawson Mercer. Here are a couple other solid young players that haven't quite, reached the NHL, haven't quite hit whatever, but they would still, at the very least, help Tucson. All right? So let's go ahead and just go over a couple little names. So you have Hendrix Leperrier, not bad. Connor Zary at 24. Justin Barron. A little guy named Jake Neighbors, for the St. Louis Blues. One of the things that I wouldn't have minded if they would have traded Chychrun there. Getting Jake Neighbors. Jakob Perreault, not bad. A couple decent younger players that you could have traded back if you really, really felt the need, right? So you still, even if they wouldn't have got Mercer, would have had something to show for it. Blake Spears is not Mercer. Blake Spears is not even Leperrier. Blake Spears is not even Jacob Perreault or Jake Neighbors. Blake Spears is nothing. I don't even dislike Blake Spears, but he's mostly been hurt. Sucks so bad he wasn't in the lineup. He's never going to make the NHL. And I remember with the hockey, I was like, Taylor Hall's gone, but sometimes it's that additional asset you don't think about that ends up being, value for you. Yeah, Blake Spears ain't it. He ain't it. And I don't even dislike the guy. But he's not it. So the fact that you still, even if for whatever reason you look at Dawson Mercer and you're like, F that guy, still have some solid, decent, younger players that could be in Tucson right now developing, and you could have traded back and had an extra asset or two. All I'm saying is the stupid mismanagement because, again, if they re-sign Hall, and they keep that roster competitive and they're still making the playoffs, let's say they made the playoffs last year, they're still in the playoff hunt this year, then it's fine. We don't care about losing Dawson Mercer. We don't care about this. But when those trades don't hit, and then you have to blow it up and lose stuff for nothing like Taylor Hall, it shows how short-sighted it was. I was so excited to get Halsey. But the fact that they chose not to try to keep him, even just to try to try to trade him at the next deadline or something like that, which you can argue the ethics on that. Sure, whatever. I think all's fair in trying to un-F your franchise when you mess it up, right? I think it's all fair in that.
Yep.
The fact that they didn't even try any of that. You could also argue Halsey looked at this roster and said, I'm not staying here. Also within his right. Also a valid counterpoint. But if you would have just kept that... Ball is not looking bad. Schnarr's kind of, kind of gone off. Kind of not really doing a whole lot. And then Mercury, I think, got traded to San Jose because he wasn't doing much.
And then I think he got traded again.
Again?
I think so. Unless that was the other Mercury there. They have two Mercurys, but one of them got traded away. I'm pretty sure it was Nick.
And they're not related, apparently.
No,
I was so excited to have two Mercurys.
The crazy part is they look really similar. I thought they were brothers. They're both, like, similar complexions and, like, face structures. I was like, oh, they must be brothers. Nope. No correlation.
But just... This hurts teams. Every team makes these mistakes, but when... Like, people wonder why the Coyotes don't have long-term success and why... I know Urinating Tree said this about the Cardinals, but it also fits with the Coyotes. No one is excited when the team's good. They're surprised and just kind of waiting for them to go back into the basement because it only every now and again you'll get good for a year or two. That's why. Because even though all three of those prospects I just listed, I do not care about losing. Mercury's injury prone, Ball's just a pretty solid size guy, and Schnarr, kind of just pittered out. He might end up being something, but I don't see it personally. You still could have had assets to move into other trades, turn into other draft picks, and really control where you want to bring the franchise. You can't tell me Schnarr didn't have value. He was part of the Hall trade. You can't tell me that Mercury didn't still have value. Even if you're getting third, fourth round picks, that's extra assets you can use for other trades or bring in other young players that you think might fit your mold better. But they lost it and didn't even keep Hall!
Yep. This is why it is very scary to go for it. You have to be confident that your team is a good team to go for it. And this team had never been to the playoffs. This team had, I shouldn't say had never, but this group had never been to the playoffs aside from like Ekman Larson, who he was a kid when he was in the playoffs. Like, this team was not ready to go for it all. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. You don't make a trade like a Taylor Hall. Once again, I agree with you. Played pretty okay for us. He wasn't terrible. But you don't make those trades until you've made it to the playoffs a couple of times. Look at a perfect example of this is actually Colorado. The first year that they made it back to the playoffs, were they picking up every asset at the deadline to solidify their chances of going deep? No. They wanted to, Sackett wanted to feel it out and say, all right, what is this team? Are they a deep playoff contender, or are they just a really good, season team? Like, what are they? Before he started wasting assets on that, and you can't make that trade. And after hearing what was going on with Chaika in the background, like the noise in the background, it made more sense of why he did that, because he had no interest of being here. He was like, all right, I'm going to just leave after this season, so I'm just going to do whatever. Like, all the hard work that I put into this organization, I'm just going to nuke it at the last second. It's like, why? And it wasn't just him costing us Mercer either. Remember, he illegally tested players, which also led to us losing Cole Sillinger. If you look at how Cole Sillinger's playing, pretty good. Could you imagine this team with Dawson Mercer, Cole Sillinger, and then on top of that also having Gunther in the background?
Hell, that pick would have been higher because they wouldn't have traded for Hall. And let's just say they would have had a little more, a similar drop-off, then the pick could have been a little higher. Even if it's only slightly. If I pull back up that 2020 draft, I'm just going to look at 2 slots higher than Mercer, just to show how much of a difference a couple of slots really could make. So Dawson Mercer, you could have been up, let's say around 15, 16, 17, and you could have grabbed Mercer or traded down to still grab Mercer and have an extra asset of any of these nice younger players. to put it into context.
Can you
or try to trade up?
Can you tell me who's at 12? Who's
at 12?
Who's at 12?
A little Anton Lundell, which if you're at 18, it's realistic to be able to package an asset and go up.
Yeah, who's at 13?
Seth Jarvis?
Yeah.
Solid young player.
It's,
because obviously Amarov and Goulet so far aren't exactly like, you're not looking at a household name, you're not looking at a Cole Caulfield miss, but a couple of slots it makes the pick more valuable, and you can then flip it if someone doesn't like what they see.
Even at 14, Dylan Holloway. Let's just say you don't have the hindsight to pick a Mercer. Dylan Holloway's still pretty good. Yeah.
It's mismanagement, because at the time I was so excited because I saw what this team could be, but here's the problem. I saw what they can be in spite of Rick Tocchet, and I was focusing on that. But they were still in Tocchett's system no matter what. You can only be so successful for so long. Why do you think they only produced a total of, I think it was 3 20-goal scorers in the 4 seasons that Tocchet was coach? Yeah, there was injuries, sure, whatever. You can't tell me that a good coach leads to a team that can't produce at least 2 20-goal scorers a season. Like, you cannot convince me. It was Connor Garland, Clayton Keller, and Phil Kessel.
Look at Tournier. Look at what he's done. We have 10
we have
people.
3, right? Is it 3 or 4?
We 3, I think. I think it's
Kells, Schmaltzy, Krauser. I thought there was one. I'll double check. Say what you were saying, and I'll just double check and see if we got.
Just to show how good coaches coach. Look at what Tournier is doing with a roster that is almost all AHL players. I'm pretty sure at this point there's more AHL players or young kids than there is NHLers. Like, this team has been riddled by injuries coming down the end of this, and they still were able to compete with the Washington Capitals, and they're still able to compete with the St. Louis Blues. Yeah, they got blown out previously, and yeah, they got blown out at the beginning. There's a lot to that, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, to compete with those teams, that's pretty impressive, and especially with all the injuries that they have now.